This is an example of the thought process I used when translating a history into an organized oral case presentation. Before going in to see any patient, I develop a differential diagnosis based on the triage note. I then organize my questions around this differential. In general, for someone with chest pain, I would ask questions around acute coronary syndrome, pulmonary embolisms, aortic dissections, pneumonia, etc. When asking questions specifically around acute coronary syndrome, I ask when the pain started, whether they've had this pain before, and whether it gets better or worse with exertion. I then present their answers clearly to my attendee in order to support or refute acute coronary syndrome as my number one differential. I'd like you to take a second to pause the presentation and look at this thought process. Next time you see a patient, attempt to write out a differential diagnosis before you go into the room, and then ask your questions around this differential. Trust me, your attending will be over the moon when they hear your next oral case presentation.
So we have a few more tips for you to help organize your oral case presentation in emergency medicine. Remember to start with your differential diagnosis in mind as you take the history to help develop the pertinent positives and negatives, as we just talked about in the previous slide. It can be very helpful to actually write out the component headings ahead of time, then write it out before you present to your staff. For example, write out chief complaint including relevant past medical history, HPI with pertinent positives and negatives, physical exam with vital signs, pertinent positives and negatives, and impression and plan with differential diagnosis. Even if you don't know what's going on, commit to differential and plan. Try to write out your orders too before presenting.
Now it's your turn to try with a brand new case. You're going to watch an animation of a patient giving their history who is presenting to the emergency department with shortness of breath. You will then be provided with physical exam and lab results. Use all of this data to help you prepare your emergency medicine oral case presentation. Now, what I want you to do right now, even before watching the history, is to write out a differential diagnosis for a patient with shortness of breath. Hopefully, all of your questions regarding your differential will be answered by the video. After the video is done, you'll be asked to prepare your own emergency medicine oral case presentation.